Hey, 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 it's Dr. Delvina. It is Therapy Thursday. How's everyone tonight? I know that if folks can't get on live, that you'll be able to watch this after tonight once it posts on my YouTube channel. Thank you for following me on Instagram and also on Facebook. A lot of you have written in and have some very good questions. I have a lot of questions I have not responded to. Um, Some things I can send a quick response or reply, but other things take time. And because I get so many, I'm trying to get to them. Tonight, I'm addressing a question from a gentleman regarding his female significant other. But before I do that, I have two questions, which were DMs from two men on Instagram. So I wanted to answer those questions first because these two are pretty quick. So let's get into the first one. I hope everyone had a groovy Thursday. Here in South Florida, we're preparing, or some of us are already prepared, but we're preparing for a Storm Dorian. So everyone be safe. And, when you live in an area that can be affected by inclement weather, I used to live in Maryland. And so in Maryland, during the winter, we could get snowstorms. So you should always try to remain and stay prepared. So in Maryland, we would keep salt. And of course, same thing, water and canned goods, just in case the electricity went out. Just taking a look at my hair. And you couldn't cook. So similar situations with natural disasters and unexpected events. In Florida, always keep water on hand and flashlights and batteries and some fuel for your generator if you have it. But anyway, let's get to Therapy Thursday. Question number 1. How do you get a woman in her 40s out of a funk when her parents pay her mortgage? She works 2 days a week as president of a nonprofit. Her 78-year-old mom cooks. I almost told her to get a grip, but then I remembered you, as in me, Dr. Delvina, and kept my mouth shut and listened. Well, let's see. So, first thing is, this writer acknowledges that I suppose his significant other, this woman, is in a funk, right? So I guess by in a funk, he means that she's had some days or moments when she feels down or she's blue or melancholic. And basically he's saying, why be in a funk? You don't pay your mortgage. Your mom pays your mortgage. You only work 2 days per week. And her mother cooks for her. So this lady works 2 days per week. Her parents pay her mortgage and her mother is cooking for her. So her man wants to understand why is she in a funk and how he can get her out of a funk, considering she has all these things going her way, or these positive things, or these things in her life that should be making her happy or content. Well, here's the situation. If someone's in a funk, meaning experiencing depression or a consistent saddened state, regardless of how great things are going in their life, they cannot just snap out of it. So you're kind of suggesting that she should snap out of her funk, is what you called it. So I think, and what I recommend, is that you don't try to get her out of a funk, because clearly you're not able, and you don't have an appreciation for what happens when someone is depressed or in a consistent sad state. She actually should see a professional, a mental health professional. I suggest that you recommend to her in a nice way that she go in and talk to someone. I think you should say to her, we all have concerns and issues, and sometimes we need an outsider to listen and give us some guidance. Encourage her to go and see someone and talk. And that's how you get her out of her funk. But just because someone has positives and everything going their way in their life doesn't mean that they won't be depressed. Depression can be genetic, biological, can be chemical. So it could be so many things that are right in someone's life, and they can still experience sadness, melancholy, depression. Second question before we get to our main question tonight. So the main question is the Therapy Thursday question for this evening. The second quick question, because as I said, I wanted to open with 2 quick questions, and then we'll go into the main question for the Therapy Thursday dialogue. The second question, I have a question about why do some women change their pattern of foreplay? In the beginning, it's easy, but after a while, it changes. Almost like pulling teeth to get intimate in a foot race for foreplay. I'm asking for a friend. Sure, you're asking for a friend, but I appreciate the inbox. Thank you for the DM. So listen, it's not even about women. Men do the same thing. People do this. People get in a situation and they become comfortable and they get complacent, right? So sometimes what happens with folks is they put their best foot forward to get into a relationship. And then once they're in the relationship, they get comfortable and they stop doing certain things. Men and women do it. It's not just women. In this question, he's asking, why do women change their pattern of foreplay? So I suppose you're saying that in the beginning, women are willing to perform fellatio, aka suck his penis, foreplay, oral sex. I suppose that's what you're saying, that women in the beginning are willing to do that. And then after a while, they no longer want to do that. And it's like pulling teeth to get intimate in a foot race for foreplay. So, okay, as I said, both men and women do this. It's not just women. People get comfortable in a relationship. But besides getting comfortable, a lot of times what happens, especially, let's say if we're talking about women, if you're not reciprocating, if you're not holding your weight, oftentimes I hear women say in sessions that if their significant other, man, is not doing things that they feel are manly, such as maintaining the house, maintaining the grounds, the land, helping to pay bills, then they don't feel that they should perform fellatio or oral sex. One patient said that she doesn't feel her man deserves her getting on her knees or subjecting herself to that if he's not able to pull his own weight. So sometimes people change their pattern of foreplay because they're no longer turned on by the situation as a whole. It doesn't have anything to do with being sexual necessarily. It's more so the circumstances of the relationship itself. So if you're in a relationship that doesn't feel fulfilling and rewarding, then you may not feel like doing certain things. And it's not just foreplay. It could just be intimacy in general. Maybe you don't want to hug hello, hug goodbye, kiss goodnight. And sometimes people use sex as a weapon, meaning if things aren't going right in the relationship or something happens, they say no to intimacy instead of saying yes, because mentally they're just not there. They're not happy. They're not content. So if you have a situation, sir, in which your female friend is not willing to participate in foreplay, you should have a conversation about, is there anything you can do to turn her on so that she's willing to spontaneously do that for you? That's the question. In the beginning, things are new and there's a lot of things we don't know about one another. And sometimes, again, people get complacent. So I hope that answers your question about foreplay. Now, let's get to the main question for Therapy Thursday tonight. If you did not see it on social media, meaning on my Instagram or my Facebook, please allow me to read the question to you. And so that way we can kind of have a discussion here. And this person will probably watch or is watching. I'm in a relationship and I don't know how to get out. I've known her for several years. In the beginning, she was in a relationship and I wanted to respect that. They separated, and at some point, the two of us got back together. We were able to reconcile. We lived in 2 different cities, but we came together and we started a relationship. Eventually, she moved in with me because on her own, she could not manage her finances. When she moved in with her children. Her children moved to my area of town and had to attend school in my district. Now things are not going so well, and it's been very difficult. We've had more bad days than good days. We argue all the time. I don't love her anymore, and I actually don't think I like her. I don't love her and I don't like her. She works, but she can't really afford her bills. Her children are good children and they like the school. If the children were not a factor, I know she would have found a way to leave. I want her to leave too, but she can't afford to stay in my area so that her children can remain in their school. I'm miserable. I don't like going home. I don't like to be next to her. I don't want to kick them out. I'm just not that way. But my heart isn't in it anymore. I don't want to be with her anymore, and I don't know what to do. Ooh-wee. That is a hard one. So let's specify here the status of this relationship. These two people are not married. They happen to be living together, but they are not married. That's number one. However, there's a commitment there because they moved in together and children are involved. These are her children. They're not his children. I think number one, when children are involved, right, you have to give some extra consideration to a situation. No, they're not his biological children, and the two of these people are not married. But like he's saying, it's to make a decision that's abrupt without giving the woman a chance to create a plan for her and her children. That may not be the best answer. The most extreme plan would be to say, listen, I don't want to be with you anymore. You have to move out and take your children with you. Now, I don't know how it works wherever they live, but here, if someone lives with you, they've established a residence and they have a mailing address with you, you have to evict that person. Even if they're not on the mortgage, they're not on the lease, they have to be formally evicted. So, in terms of this gentleman's planning, he may have to go to the courthouse and officially on record evict this woman so that she has to leave. That's the extreme. That's the extreme option, I guess. I would say. However, because he cares about the children, he doesn't want to pull them or make a decision that would require these kids be pulled from the school in that district. This is August. School is just starting. So that means he has a whole year to endure or contend with this relationship that includes arguments and more bad days than good days, like he said. So first recommendation would be get someone else involved. Maybe go to counseling. You guys should see a relationship counselor or a mental health specialist so that way they can kind of help you work through the process. I understand that you don't love her anymore and you don't like her, period. But a mental health professional can help you in creating a plan so you guys can dissolve the relationship and it can end on potentially a positive note for both of you, because maybe she feels the same way. So he doesn't tell me what he thinks or what his perception is of what she thinks of him. He does say that he believes she would leave if the children weren't involved. The last thing anyone, a man or a woman, wants to do is remain in a relationship because of children. The children are unhappy too when they're seeing these things take place, that the mother or the father, along with their significant other, if it doesn't happen to be their biological parent, are discontent and they're arguing all the time. You actually create more problems forcing children or forcing a relationship that's a negative relationship that includes a lot of arguing and discontent. That's worse than the separation itself. To this gentleman, so number one, consider seeking relationship counseling to help you guys in breaking up and creating a plan. Number two, at some point, obviously, she and her children have to move out. So you may want to explore and maybe possibly including an attorney going to the courthouse and finding out if you have to evict them. Either way, it's going to be a difficult decision because either you do it now or you do it at the end of the school year. But it really sounds like things are to the point where it's so bad that you may just have to move on things now. If you're not able to communicate with your significant other, with the woman, if you don't think the two of you guys can have a conversation without arguing and kind of create a plan to work this out, that's why I said you should seek relationship counseling to help you in dissolving the relationship if you're not able to do it on your own. A professional can help you guys, can meet with you together as well as individually with you, with her, to come up with the way that you guys can make a plan. And unfortunately, this is the circumstances that are presented here. Her mother, right, has some responsibility in this because she moved her children in with you, and she's not able to afford to be in that area. But there's nothing you can do about that. You can't, unless you decide that you want to help supplement her income, move her into another place, and you're helping her pay for it so that the children can go to school in that area. But it doesn't sound like you want to do that. So really, and it is not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility. Some people would say that that's wrong for you to ask them to leave and the children have to leave their school. But it's at the end of the day, it's not your responsibility. And I have this motto about life. We should all be happy in life. It doesn't mean that you have to be a jerk to do it. You don't have to. At the same time, you don't have to sacrifice your own happiness for a person who you don't get along with because she herself can't afford the lifestyle for her children. So let's see. I'm sorry, I was kind of looking at some of the comments here. So either way, you are going to have to make a decision here for them to go. It's just a matter of when and how. So I'm not sure if you tried to sit down with her and have a conversation and discuss how things have gotten really bad, unexpectedly, how things are not going well. I think you should have that conversation. Hopefully there isn't any arguing. Maybe she agrees with you. If you guys are not able to do that, again, a mental health professional can help you with that. And if she does not want to go, I think definitely you have to also legally, you have to determine what your rights are in asking her to leave your home. And you're just going to have to do it. You state here that you don't love her and you don't like her. You said also that you want her out. So I think you should start making a plan to do that. Hopefully she is a mother who appreciates that her daughter loves that area and she can make something happen. If it can't be that area, maybe she can move them somewhere else that's very similar so that they're in a school that they like. It's the beginning of the school year. I suggest you do it now as opposed to trying to stick it out for 2-3 months and realizing you can't do it because you know right now you're acknowledging it's not working. So you have to make a plan now to ask your soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. Sounds like she's already your ex-girlfriend. She just happens to still live there. You guys have to have that conversation about when she's leaving. And that's pretty much it. I mean, your only other option would be to sacrifice your own happiness for the sake of someone else's children. And as cold as that may sound, that's pretty much what it is. And I've seen situations like this go from okay to bad to dangerous really quickly. What I mean by that is if you guys argue all the time and can barely talk to one another and you don't like her, that doesn't make for a very cordial relationship. And especially if there's any type of violence in the home, physical violence, and you could potentially go to jail. So you're placing yourself in a risky situation. The bottom line in what I'm telling you basically is to seek mental health advisement and legal advisement. The legal advisement is so that you know whether or not you have to evict her because she's already been in your home. Okay. The mental health advisement is so that if she's willing, you guys can allow a mental health professional to help you or assist you in dissolving the relationship if she's willing. If she's not willing, then it sounds like you, the two of you on your own, will have to find a way to cordially discuss, not argue, not yell, um, ending the relationship. And in doing so, discuss dates as to when she'll move out. When she'll move out probably all depends on whether or not you have to evict her. So again, here in South Florida, you have to do a formal eviction, which means it can take time. You have to go to court, get an eviction letter. Sometimes they get 30 days, 60 days, however that works. And you can't just put them out right away. Maybe where you're residing, you don't have to get an eviction. But another part of that too is whether or not you want to give her time so that she can save money, if she's able to do that, to move. She may not be able to stay in your area or your district, but she can definitely afford something somewhere else, or maybe move in with a friend. But after a certain point, it's no longer your problem. The other question is whether or not the children's father, if he's paying child support, because that's another way that she can help herself and her children. Child support is so that these children can have a roof over their heads and food in their on their plates. So I hope that helps and gives you some direction. Basically, you should not feel bad about wanting to leave a bad relationship. When children are involved, it does make it more complicated, which means that maybe you can't be as abrupt, but just be strategic and create a plan. And that's all you can do. For instance, if these children were your children and it was a bad relationship, you would move on some sort of plan, right? You would. So the same thing holds true in this relationship with this woman who you're not married to. And in the future, be careful who you decide to allow in your home and who you decide to cohabitate with. You have to be careful about that. Moving in together is easy, but once you get in there, it's not always as easy to separate. Let's see if there's any comments. Someone said he's got to be the bad guy and send them away. Help her get something she can afford and get over it before it gets worse. Yeah, pretty much. I would agree with that. It's not easy dating a ready-made family, and that is why some people stay away from dating people who have children already. It does come with some baggage or some challenges. So, because sometimes the children have a problem with the mother or father dating someone else that's not their mother or father. And sometimes there's some guilt because of that, and your significant other or boyfriend, girlfriend might make decisions in favor of the children because of feeling guilty and not wanting to upset the children. And also maybe the issues that come with the other parent. Sometimes that creates a problem too. But anyway, not to get into that, not to digress too much, but you just have to make a plan to ask her to leave, pretty much. Don't stay in a situation where you're unhappy, and especially where you argue every day and you guys don't get along. As I said, that could actually become very volatile, and someone might get arrested. And it would be unfortunate if it's you, if you get arrested and from your own home. Imagine that. You get arrested and you go to jail for 3, 4, 5, 6 months or something like that, and she's still in your house. Do you realize you could potentially lose your residence? Or she could file a restraining order against you, and you'd have to pay a lawyer all types of money to get you out of that situation, meaning she's living in your home. Her name is not on the mortgage or the deed or the lease. If something happens and you get arrested because of some type of domestic violence and she files a restraining order against you, you can't go back in that house. So, all right, guys, I wanted this to be a short Therapy Thursday. The Therapy Thursday 2 weeks ago about anal sex was about an hour almost long. So I wanted to keep this short and sweet. If you missed the first 2 questions, go back and watch. I appreciate the ones who did get on this evening. Hopefully I'll be back next Thursday for Therapy Thursday. I have a few other questions that are relationship questions. But remember, it doesn't always have to be about relationship or sex. It can be about other mental health issues or concerns too, like depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety, personality disorders, any of those things. So if you don't already follow me on Facebook or social media, follow me on Instagram. I meant to say that, not social media. I'm Dr. Delvina on Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm also Dr. Delvina. And I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as Dr. Delvina. Oops, I spelled my own name wrong. So remember, brain love, and everyone have a groovy rest of Thursday night. I'll see you mañana. Brain love.